The ship carried enough explosive to flatten neighborhoods. Yet, when it caught fire inside Halifax Harbour, many people watching from shore had no idea what was burning. For nearly 20 minutes, the French freighter Mont-Blanc burned inside a crowded wartime port as flames climbed above its deck. Then, a few seconds before 9:05 on the morning of December 6, 1917, the ship detonated. The blast was roughly equivalent to 3 kilotons of TNT. It destroyed much of Halifax North End, struck Dartmouth across the water, and sent pieces of the ship kilometers from the harbor. More than 1,700 people were killed by the explosion and its after effects. At least 9,000 were injured, and thousands more lost their homes. But the disaster did not begin with an attack. It began with two ships trying to pass each other in a narrow channel. Halifax was one of the busiest Allied ports in North America during the First World War. Troops, supplies, and ships moved through the harbor before crossing the Atlantic. Early that morning, Mont-Blanc was entering the Narrows with a cargo intended for the war in Europe. In its holds were enormous quantities of high explosives, including picric acid and TNT. Flammable petrochemical was also carried on deck. The Maritime Museum of the Atlantic describes the ship, once the cargo ignited, as effectively becoming a 3-kiloton bomb inside a modern city. At the same time, the Norwegian ship Emo was leaving Bedford Basin, bound for New York to load supplies for occupied Belgium. The two vessels met in the Narrows. Their courses converged, whistle signals were exchanged, and evasive maneuvers came too late. Emo struck Mont-Blanc near the bow. The collision itself was not the explosion, but as the ships separated, the impact had damaged containers of flammable liquid on Mont-Blanc. Fire spread across the deck. The crew knew what was below them. They abandoned ship and pulled away in lifeboats while the burning freighter remained dangerously close to the Halifax waterfront. From shore, the fire looked spectacular rather than incomprehensible. Smoke rose over the harbor. Workers, families, and children could see a ship burning in broad daylight. Some people moved toward windows to watch. Firefighters and harbor personnel responded to what appeared to be a shipboard fire. Very few people around them understood that the burning vessel contained thousands of tons of explosives. One railway dispatcher did receive a warning. Vincent Coleman worked in a small station in the Richmond rail yards, only a short distance from the harbor. After learning that the burning ship carried ammunition and could explode, he returned to his telegraph and warned stations along the line to hold incoming trains. Coleman died when the blast destroyed his station. His message became one of the best-known stories of the disaster. Later research, however, makes one popular detail less certain. It is unclear whether his warning specifically stopped passenger train number 10 before the explosion. What is clear is that the warning went out across the railway line. Then Mont-Blanc exploded. The pressure wave tore through Richmond. Buildings collapsed or were stripped apart. Rail cars were thrown and waterfront structures vanished. Across the harbor, Dartmouth was hit as well. The explosion forced water violently through the Narrows, producing destructive waves along the shoreline. Hot stoves and furnaces ignited wreckage, adding fires to neighborhoods already shattered by the blast. Glass became one of the disaster's most devastating weapons. People who had gone to windows to watch the burning ship were directly exposed when the pressure wave arrived. Thousands suffered injuries, and eye trauma was so widespread that the disaster became a major episode in the history of emergency eye care. The physical evidence shows the scale. The Maritime Museum reports that fragments of Mont-Blanc fell across a range of about 8 kilometers. The core of the north end was devastated across hundreds of acres. The Mont-Blanc community at Turtle Grove, close to the Narrows, was struck hard, as were working-class neighborhoods around Richmond. The disaster cut across homes, factories, rail yards, schools, and the waterfront in seconds. And Halifax had another problem almost immediately: winter. Communications were damaged, roads were blocked, hospitals were overwhelmed, and thousands needed shelter. Relief began locally within hours. Soldiers, sailors, doctors, Nurses and residents pulled survivors from wreckage and converted buildings into emergency facilities. Then, a snowstorm swept over the city, burying streets and damaged homes and making rescue work even harder. Help came by rail from across the region and from the United States. A relief train from Massachusetts brought doctors, nurses, and supplies from Boston. That response became the beginning of a lasting connection between Halifax and Boston, remembered today through Halifax's annual gift of a Christmas tree to the city. Rebuilding took years, but it began almost at once. The Halifax Relief Commission eventually coordinated housing, repairs, and compensation on a huge scale. By early 1918, hundreds of temporary flats were being built for people who had lost their homes. The exact death toll has always been difficult to define because people died immediately, later from injuries, and sometimes without complete records. Nova Scotia Archives now maintains a remembrance database containing 1,782 known victims. The number is not just a statistic, it is a record assembled name by name from death registers, relief files, newspapers, cemetery records, and family research. The Halifax Explosion is remembered as one of the largest human-made explosions before the atomic age. But its most unsettling lesson is smaller and more immediate. For nearly 20 minutes, a ship carrying a city-destroying cargo burned in full view of people along the harbor. The catastrophe was already underway. Most of the city simply could not see what the fire meant.